Today's episode is for the nerds, for my close friends. I've actually never done a podcast of this nature, even though everyone knows I'm a big fan of anime, cartoons, comic books, everything animated, everything superhero. And today we're joined by a collector, a man that makes my collection look. I fail in comparison. So Chad Beyers, bro, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me, man. This is pretty cool. It's exciting because I know you've had people on here, yourself included, is like people who actually have proper value, who can give proper value to people's lives. So I'm honored to be here.
I think talking about anime, talking about comic books, whatever, there's value in that as well, you know.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Well, let's start. You obviously, I've seen your Instagram. I haven't actually looked at your TikTok. But is your TikTok anything different? Because obviously Instagram, you show your comic books that you're reading, your collection.
I'm a little bit more active on Instagram. TikTok, I'll maybe post sometimes the same stuff, but I'm a little bit more active on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm the same. TikTok is kind of just, okay, well, I've made this for Instagram. Let me just put it there.
Just put it, yeah. So I'm not as quick with it because I do like to plan a little bit, and then like if there's a book I want to show off or a collection I want to show, or a piece of the collection I want to show off, I plan a little bit. And TikTok's a little bit faster, so I'm not as quick. So.
Yeah. And also, if I'm consuming content, I consume on Instagram.
Same, yeah.
So it's always just I'm consuming, posting on TikTok. I mean, posting on Instagram, and then as an afterthought sometimes, kind of like, okay, cool, let's put it on TikTok as well.
Like I've tried to kind of do like more focused stuff on Instagram and just more like haul and maybe discussion stuff. Like I said, because TikTok is a little bit faster, but I just can't, like you say, it slips away sometimes, and focus a little bit more on Instagram. Yeah.
So you obviously massive comic book fan.
100%.
Would you say if you had to choose, are you out based off Instagram? But obviously your shirt says different. But I would say you more like Marvel comics, initially, like mainly orientated towards.
So definitely more comic books. I've only recently gotten back into anime a bit more. Yeah, but mostly comic books, both DC, Marvel, independents as well. I'm not, I don't pick and choose. If the story is good, if artwork is good, I'm buying it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is your first introduction into comics? Did you grow up with your parents give you?
So it was actually movies, the X-Men movies, the X-Men animated series. So funny enough that
now they've just
revived it. Yeah. The Spider-Man. So I watched a lot of stuff growing up.
How old are you? So what years were this?
So I'm 31 this year in November. So
so like late 90s ish.
Yeah. Early 2000s. So a lot of like the X-Men movies, the Tobey Maguire movies, stuff like that. And then I've always wanted to collect comic books, but being young, not having access to like transport and stuff like that, money as well, I always imagined it as more of an American thing. And then actually, excuse me, after high school, actually, I was like, I knew the comic book store was somewhere because I went to school on Beyers, FDR.
Yeah.
And then I went to the high school, Roosevelt High School. So I knew comic book was somewhere here. So I was like, one day after my mom picked up from school, I was like, Mom, can we just drive and see? And I think Cosmic Comics at the time was at Blackheath, and they had just moved.
Next to the bakery, where they would have been at the bakery.
Opposite the spa.
Yes.
Yeah,
because the bakery was right next door. I always remember smelling that fresh bakery, baked goods or whatever while I was busy shopping.
Exactly. So I didn't know they moved there. So when we got to Blackheath, the windows were still up. The signage on the windows was still up. I was like, so did we miss it or what's happening? And then obviously I was like, okay, missed opportunity. And then we eventually did find it again because obviously the signage and stuff. And then I got to the point after high school, my brother was still in high school. So when I would fetch him from high school, we would just pop in there and just kind of walk around and see what, just be in awe in all these characters and all these books and stuff. Yeah.
So obviously X-Men, Spider-Man, those were your cartoon introductions into it. Yeah. Did you then go and try, get a random Spider-Man comic book, or did you know about the ordering and?
So no, I think when you don't really have that information and you go to the comic book store just out of pure interest, it can be very jarring because you're going there and you're seeing, okay, X-Men is on like 200 and something. Like, do I have to collect 200 books? How does this work? Only when you start buying stuff, then you kind of get introduced or you start understanding arcs within the book. So yeah, you don't have to collect the 200 books. You can just collect from like, if the arc began at like 197, you can start from there.
Or you can like get the graphic novel
100%,
up until that point and then
100%,
get the single issues.
Yeah. So that's actually where I am now. So I've sold off a lot of, I've had about 7 short boxes. I've sold off about 5 because I want to start collecting the omnibuses and the more collected editions, which is actually a lot more fun to read as well. So if you want to go back and read those stories, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my first introduction, I saw something for Cosmic Comics as well, because growing up I was interested in cartoons and that kind of stuff, and then I enjoyed superhero movies, but I never really thought about comic books,
Yeah.
And then I saw on Facebook it was free comic book day at Cosmic Comics, and I was like, you know what, let me just go.
Yeah.
Because I was obviously growing up, as a teenager, going and watching like mainly Marvel, at least at that point. DC wasn't really established, other than like maybe Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But also that was like later high school, I think, if my timeline's correct. But
Makes sense,
I went there, and then I didn't know what to do. I mean, I just saw this Batman comic book, issue 60 whatever, and I was like, okay, well, this is cool. It was like 17 rand. This is so cheap. I grab it, I read it, and I'm like, well, I have no clue what's going on. This isn't the Batman I know. This isn't the one that I see on TV. And then like you just completely confused. So the day they were super busy. So I understand them not maybe explaining it to me because there was tons of people in there.
Yeah.
And, then I bought that, and then I did some research. So I'm like, oh, okay. There was like 300 before this that I should have been reading. I think it was New 52. It just ended.
Oh, I see.
When I got into it.
Okay, yes.
So it was Rebirth. Rebirth had started when I got really big into like, okay, buying the single issues and all of that. And I went and bought something from New 52, and I had no clue what was going on.
100%, yeah.
And then obviously I learned. But it's interesting how like people will get me a gift. They'll get me a single issue of a comic book. And it's some random character that I'm not really interested, but just because it's a comic book, they assume Jesse's going to like this.
Yeah, I appreciate the thought, but it's you know who I like too.
Yeah, it's like getting someone season 6, episode 12 of Friends. And expecting them to know what's going on.
No, it's difficult. It's not as user friendly as we would like. I mean, we in it, so we can kind of navigate, and I guess that's also kind of why we here as well. We understand. So if you do have interest in it, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm always excited to preach, or not preach, but like
just talk about it because you're so passionate about it.
100%. I'm always like, and I've actually had a couple people reach out and say, "Listen, that book you posted about, I actually read it and I love it." I'm like, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
So what if we look at like omnibus, or we look at a particular graphic novel? Because when I got really into Batman, I was buying like Frank Miller's, and I was Dark Knight Returns. Returns. I always get it confused because of the movie. Dark Knight Rises is the movie.
Yes.
So that the other Batman, Hush, I really enjoyed Hush.
Hush is good.
It was always like the most well-known ones that got me into it, but I really, and like Batman Year One and all of those, which was nice because when I had that background, then watching like Batman vs Superman, then I could see what Zack Snyder took from
the references,
the Dark Knight, and what now with what the new Batman with
Robert Pattinson.
Pattinson, like from Year One, but it's kind of like a Year Two. So it was really cool to have read that. And that's why, like, I'm sure you're the same with people that don't really understand the comics. You're like, yo, that's so cool that they put that in the movie, or I can see why they reference that.
Yes.
And then it's just like, you talk about it and everyone's like, okay, I don't understand.
Exactly. So I always had this this thought or this idea, because I know growing up when we would go to movies sometimes, like more specifically the Fantastic Four movie, I remember after leaving the cinema.
Was that the one? Obviously not the newer remake, but the one with Chris Evans as the Human Torch.
Yes, Jessica Alba.
Yeah,
so I think it was the first movie. Soon as we left the cinema, we popped by, it was like Top CD or something, bought the game, the PlayStation 2 game. Parents didn't see me for the whole weekend. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always curious I was curious, does the movies bring people in? And I actually asked Shane the other day, because I had a couple books I wanted to get like appraised and see how much they were.
Shane from
Cosmic, yeah.
Cosmic.
I asked him, like, do the movies like bring people in? Do people come in and be like, listen, I watched Batman. What could you recommend? And he was like, surprisingly not, which is quite interesting, because I know I would imagine that would be almost like, I don't want to say gateway, but like the introduction to
might spark that interest a little bit more.
100%, yeah, because I mean the movies and shows are quite fun, but there's so much more in the books.
Yeah.
And I always recommend that. We'll always tell that to people, because the movies and the series and stuff will always reference certain things, but there's so much more in the books.
Yeah.
You know, so I would always try and encourage books more. Yeah.
And also the different style of artwork.
100%, yeah.
This person can, draw Batman in a particular way. Someone else can do it in this way. Frank Miller's got Old Man Batman.
Yeah.
Batman Beyond is like futuristic. So there's so many different variations,
100%.
and you get to see that in the comic book. So you like our childhood interest of, what would this Batman be like? We get to see it. Whereas in the movies, it's like maybe every 4 years, if that, there's a new Batman movie or a superhero movie. Obviously, we got very fortunate with the amount of Marvel movies that they put out.
Yeah. Fortunate is
fortunate when they were good.
Yeah.
What's your views on that? Like, when was Marvel at its peak in terms of cinematic universe?
I would say just pre and on Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame. After that, it's getting a bit tough.
It got a bit Disneyerized. They Disneyed
a little
it up
bit,
a bit too
yeah.
much.
And I think also too with books as well, you see that when it becomes more of a money thing as opposed to a passion thing. Like, obviously, at the end of the day, there needs to be a certain return. I'm terrible with numbers, so I'm more based on the passion. So as business people, they want to see the numbers. They want to see, is this making money? If it's not making money, then it's not really worth it. So I understand it from that perspective, but I'm also like, don't rush it, It took 10 years to get to Endgame. It's okay to get, to the next end phase or the next big Avengers in the next 5-6 years. You know what I'm saying? What worked.
When you see how well Endgame did, or you see how well, the Deadpools do, then you're like, okay, cool, well, Deadpool did so well. Let's introduce an all-female Spider-Man cast,
100%.
and then it fails.
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, well, let's just try push money as opposed to let's get the script right. Let's make sure that, everything is coordinated correctly. And also, I think that's maybe the biggest thing about Endgame is they had about 15 movies that all built it up.
100%.
Whereas now it's kind of like, okay, well, let's try push out as many Ant-Man movies. Let's do this. And it's, we fell in love with the Marvel Universe because of the Iron Man and because of Captain America and how they, came together and built the team. And then after that, it was kind of just like, okay, well, let's just try to see how much money we can get.
100%. And it's like, I know at the time when they made Iron Man wasn't even like the most popular character, to be honest. So it's bringing that popularity or bringing eyes onto that character and say, listen, there is grounds for story here, because like X-Men and Fantastic Four was a little bit more popular in terms of like sales and stuff. I know book-wise. So it's I don't know, it's unfortunate, but I mean, hopefully we live and we learn. You know what I'm saying? I think also what a lot of people will say is that the series brought this phase down, or I don't know what phase we're in. I think we're like phase 6 or something. Yeah. The two, phase 5 and phase 6 down. I don't know. Like,
which series in particular do you think kind of did it a disservice?
I don't know. So this is one thing about like reviews, because this is my opinion.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
you personally.
Personally, my opinion. So I don't know. Hawkeye didn't land for me.
Because I love Jeremy Renner in the movies.
True.
He
me
was
too.
such a cool character, even though he
100%.
wasn't used that much. But I think maybe that's also why he was cool.
Yes,
Because he's
yes,
not
yes,
a character that has as much depth that you can kind of go into as what Iron Man, Captain America can, you know?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he doesn't really have powers and he doesn't have as much money as Iron Man. So
100%. Yeah. So Hawkeye didn't really land for me. The shows that did surprisingly land for me was WandaVision, actually, because of all those characters. Wanda and Vision, I had no interest in. I'm like, okay, they're there as like, I understand why they're there, but that whole show took me by surprise. Because I'm like, okay, I wasn't expecting it to be this good. You know what I'm saying? I didn't expect to dive into magic and like introduction of the kids and all that, and so that show really took me by surprise. Yeah.
did you enjoy the Doctor Strange with her?
Yes, I like so there's aspects of that movie I thoroughly enjoy. I enjoyed like the horror aspect. I enjoyed Doctor Strange as a character, the multiverse stuff. I don't know. For me, I enjoyed that. But I do feel like if you didn't watch WandaVision, because WandaVision is easily a show I could have been like, as a fan, I'm like, I'm not going to watch this. You know what I'm saying? I have no interest in it. If you don't watch that, you don't get the lead up to it. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, again, it brings us back to the point of you are relying on these projects to kind of support each other. Whereas in the beginning, you have this movie. Okay, we can kind of bring them together for an Avengers movie. But then after that, you've got Iron Man 2. He's dealing with whatever's happening there. You have Captain America, Winter Soldier. He's dealing with whatever's happening there. And then later on, we can bring them again. It wasn't really dependent on, it was always a post-credit scene where it's like, oh, it's an Easter egg to Thor or whatever the case may be. So I feel like that reliability, they rely too much on each other. And
You mentioned Thor. How was the most recent Thor for you?
I'm not going to lie, I did not enjoy it. Because I saw it twice and I was like, I can't lie.
Because Ragnarok was, I would say it was a decent movie with some good laughs, but it was kind of the build up to the regression.
It's so funny you say that, because I 100% agree. I know people wholeheartedly love Ragnarok, and I understand because Ragnarok's the third one, right? Because you had Thor,
then Dark
World, and then So
Ragnarok,
the first two was like dark.
What is the fourth one's name?
Love and Thunder.
Love and Thunder.
Love and Thunder. Yeah. The first two were dark and very moody, and like I love that Thor. You know what I'm saying? Like even in the comic books, he's that like Elizabethan Norse god. You know, you reading and you watching a Norse god, so you kind of want some sort of like Viking-esqueness to it, you know. And I love that grittiness to Thor. The comedic side, okay, I get it, but I'm not a big fan of it, to be honest. And Ragnarok was okay for me. I did not enjoy Love and Thunder. Yeah.
I like Natalie Portman, and it was kind of cool seeing her as a female version of Thor. But for me, it was the writing, where it was some of the jokes, or like where she catches the hammer and Thor said, I can't remember the exact line or whatever, but it was kind of just like such a cliche line. And it was just like diminishing the worth of the character because it was poor writing.
Yeah. So you're right when you say the writing, because you have two excellent actor and actress as in that movie as extremely interesting characters too. Gore the God Butcher and then Natalie Portman as Jane Foster Thor. Those are two excellent characters. In the books, you see the menacing feeling of Gore the God Butcher. And for me, if you're gonna get the Batman, Christian Bale as a villain, please lead into his strengths. Like there's a scene where he's like, okay, so I don't know if probably people have watched it. So spoilers.
It's too late if they haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, then I mean you've done yourself a service,
maybe,
but yeah, good for you. But there's the only scene that I really like from that movie is when Gore is in the like little imprisonment with the kids that he's kidnapped. Well, yeah, taken rather. And then he brings up like the shadow creature and he kind of like beheads it, and he's like, oh, is that, you know? And it's like this very menacing presence. And I'm like, that's gore. Why could I not get this throughout the whole movie? But yeah, I don't know. It's just, the writing was a little bit like, it fell a bit flat for me.
Yeah. Luckily, unfortunately for Spider-Man, because it's such a massive, iconic character, even those post like Endgame and stuff have been good.
100%, yeah.
They've always maintained the integrity of the character with
100%.
Spider-Man, irrespective of the time frame that it's been in. And I've thoroughly enjoyed Tom Holland. And so, out of the three, who's your favorite Spider-Man?
I genuinely love Andrew Garfield.
Yeah,
I genuinely like. I love them all, but Andrew Garfield, just for me, it's the same with like Batman. You have a good Batman and you have a good Bruce Wayne. For me, he has a good balance of both. He's got like this awkward but yet quirky Peter Parker, and then just as Spider-Man, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
And what was tough, because I did enjoy Tobey Maguire, and then when he came back in the newer Spider-Man, it was just tough because he's aged. He's so much older now.
Yeah.
So seeing like this actually like 40, or he's probably like over past 40 in real life, seeing this late 30-year-old Spider-Man looking man, it was kind of like,
yeah.
But I did enjoy him because it was the first Spider-Man that I was introduced to live action. So it was cool. But Tobey Maguire definitely was my favorite. I thoroughly enjoyed Tom Holland as the Spider-Man because he's got Tony's tech and all of that kind of stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
But, Andrew for me is also, if I had to say like, okay, let's redo Spider-Man, like if it could be him, it would be cool.
Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire, yes.
Sick, yeah.
No, Andrew.
Andrew Garfield. Oh, okay, no, definitely. I think each of them.
Who did you say was yours?
Andrew,
yeah. I'm agreeing.
Oh, you get okay,
yes,
cool.
Yeah.
I do think each of them bring a different perspective to the character. I mean, Toby you could see him go through like these. He went from like high school to college, and then that change, that awkward change in life, and then Andrew also dived into like the loss because obviously Gwen Stacy, and then so it's that broodingness, and then obviously with Tom Holland's one, we got all of that. You know what I'm saying? So that, I don't know though. Okay, now that I'm thinking about it, Tom Holland. No, I think I'm gonna stick with Andrew Garfield.
Yeah. Tom, it's tough because Tom also has the people and the directors and the writers have seen what's worked really well.
100%,
so it's a bit easier with also technology improving to make a better, more accurate Spider-Man.
True, yeah.
But just for me, Andrew.
Yeah.
I enjoy Andrew. I enjoy Andrew so much that I would go look for movies that Andrew's been in and watch them just because I enjoy him as an actor so much.
And he's got crazy range as an actor.
Yeah. I mean, I watched this one musical that he did
with Vanessa Hudgens.
Yes, when he plays the piano.
Yes.
I don't enjoy musicals. I don't enjoy it, but I watched it because I was on Netflix and I saw it. He was in it.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know what? Let me just give this a chance. I don't enjoy musicals, but I like him.
Yeah,
and I watched it and it was awesome.
Yeah,
it was a really good movie.
No, I'm like him and Robert Pattinson is always. I'm always amazed at how, like, because I don't know if you have the same problem where you watch a movie and for the life of me, I can't remember the person's actual name. I just remember them from the movie that they come from. And then it's hard to disassociate them from that movie.
Yeah.
So when you see them in something else, you're like, oh, it's the dude from Twilight as Batman now. It's hard to do that. But with them, it's like you're so engulfed in the movie you're watching. Not necessarily you forget that they were Batman or they were Spider-Man, but like you enjoy the movie that they're in currently. And it's like, okay, no, this is great. As an actor, you have a range and this is amazing.
Okay, so you've got your 6 or whatever many Batman to choose from.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but let's start with character or the actor who plays Batman.
Okay.
And your favorite there.
Okay.
The person that's represented your version of Batman that you've enjoyed the most, and then maybe the movie as a whole.
Okay. Ooh, this is a tough one. So I would say top one would be Christian Bale, only because those 3 Batman movies. I think what is the second one with Heath Ledger Joker? Excellent movie. I think I've watched that movie. If I had that disc would be gone right now because you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do enjoy Ben Affleck's Batman. Just that the fighter, the warehouse scene that everybody loves. I can watch that scene over and over again. However, I think I will put Robert Pattinson over Ben Affleck though, just because it's good to see Batman take a punch and it actually hurts him. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, this is just a man in a suit and who's studied some kung fu, jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. So yeah, but I think the most definitive movie would be the Chris Nolan saga trilogy.
Yeah. And that was obviously when I had watched, the Batman movies before then, with like Arnold as Mr. Freeze, and like all of that kind of stuff. And those are my
Batman.
those are my first introduction into Batman. But the first time as like fully aware adulty high school person was obviously Nolan's universe. But for me, just because I really enjoy Zack Snyder. Yeah. I like Zack Snyder. I liked Watchmen. When he made that Watchmen movie, it was a really good movie. I enjoyed 300. I enjoyed him, telling the old man weathered Batman story of like, he is going to kill sometimes if he has to. Like, I enjoyed that. And also I enjoy Ben Affleck because of the certain, like, The Town. I enjoyed him in those movies, and those movies made me really enjoy him as Batman. And also because I don't know why, but I was drawn to him. But then with Pattinson's Batman, it was awesome because the fight scenes were so well choreographed. There was that one scene where he uses like a bat suit and he's got the wings, and then he puts the parachute up, and then it gets caught in the
it's not as perfect and as smooth as you expect it to be. That's exactly why I love.
It's cool,
100%. And when he lands hard. You can tell that he did not practice it that way, and I do love that. And I think that's so. If you look at like the George Clooney and even the Tim Burton Batmans, it does still lean towards the quirky comic bookness of these superheroes, or specifically Batman, because the Two-Face, half his face is pink. You can tell why somebody won't really take those movies seriously. But I think what Chris Nolan did was like he made it realistic, and he made it like, okay, this could actually, if you see a dude in a bat suit jumping over, like you would imagine that's how it would be. And I think that was a good turning point. And then now this, where you see a Batman who actually isn't perfect, and like you say, Robert Pattinson's Batman is here too, so he's still coming in, and I'm a sucker for coming of age stories as well, and seeing him like not really fitting in the bad boots. You know what I'm saying? He's still got room to grow, and I love that.
And another thing is him as Bruce, where he's in the cave and Alfred says we've got some board meeting or whatever, and he's like, I don't care about that. I need to save the city.
100%.
And it's just like, you can't be Batman without the business.
100%.
And it's just also that disconnect of him being mature enough actually to be like, okay, well, that needs to be done so that I can continue this. Where he's just so hyper focused. I think it's probably something with Selena at the time, where he was just so focused on that scenario with Penguin and stuff that he just disregarded that. And that was also a nice dynamic, or a nice attribute to see of an emotional immaturity actually of Batman.
I think also that's why we love comic books and movies so much, is because you don't get a character that's perfect. You don't get a character that automatically just gonna get it. He's gonna wake up one day.
Unless he's Superman. Most of the time.
I mean, even there in and of itself, I always regarded Superman as a overrated character, because I had this perception of Superman is perfection. But when you get a story like recently we had Warworld, where you had Superman's powers decreasing and he has to go to essentially Warworld to free Kryptonian prisoners or something, and the core of the planet is actually a red sun. So he is a normal person there. He's got no flight, he's got no ice breath, he's just a gladiator, and you're seeing him for the person he is. Take away the powers. And I said this the other day in one of my stories, because with X-Men 97 that's going on, spoilers, because that one is relatively fresh, but Storm gets depowered. Now, what do you do with a character that's so overly powerful? Essentially, Storm is an Omega level power mutant. You take her powers away. Who is she as a person? And that for me is what the story is about.
Because that's when good writing or storytelling comes in.
100%, yeah.
Because when someone who is so OP loses their powers,
100%.
it's like, okay, well, how can you still keep the reader or the audience engaged?
Exactly. Who are they without their powers? You know, is Superman still able to inspire and convince people? And in that story, they kind of do. Because I think on Warworld you kind of have like these chains, and chains is essentially your badges of honor. The more links, the more people you've defeated. So, and you got these kids who's so power hungry, and he's teaching them. He's like, dude, that's not the way. You know, be compassionate to others. And he inspired like a whole group of rebellion, and then that for me is good storytelling. You know what I'm saying? If you can take a character, take away the powers. I mean, powers, yeah, it's always good and fun to see these fun like action scenes, and it's always great to see, but like if you're gonna miss the story, if you're gonna miss why this character is so impactful, then what's the point? You know what I'm saying?
Do you have a particular artist?
So many.
So who for you is your favorite? Like if you had to, it could be, because they obviously also can change quite a bit, but like a particular run of a story that they did.
Right now, currently, Jorge Jimenez, he's been on Batman for quite a few issues. And the way he does Batman, and like just overall the Bat family, is so beautiful.
Was he doing Batman Metal at a stage? I'm trying to...
No, that is Greg Capullo.
Yes,
Greg
I enjoyed
Capullo.
that. I enjoyed
amazing.
Greg, yes. Yeah.
So funny enough, when I started buying comic books, because I couldn't get into, like I wanted X-Men, I wanted Spider-Man, but obviously numbering was high, it's jarring. I actually started picking up Batman instead. And it was the Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo run. And then, yeah.
That was the Metal, hey?
So it was just before
that was,
Metal.
But that was, it was before Metal, but it was Rebirth. It was, I think so.
It might be. It could be like in New 52. No, it was New 52 because Rebirth brought in Tom King, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, but Snyder was on a particular Batman. It might have been Batman and Robin.
I know he was on Batman for quite some, I think about 55 issues or something, and then it kicked into Rebirth. But then after that, he did, I think it was Batman Eternal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But there's a few books, and then he was on some Detective Comics as well.
Yes.
But yeah, no. Also,
it might have been Detective that I'm thinking about.
Might be, yeah. Yeah, it might have been. Or, I don't know. In terms of timeline, you see, comic books can get super convoluted, but like once you're in it, and then like you say, you'll read a specific run, you're like, okay, cool, this writer or this artist is really fun. Then you'll go out and look for what else have they done. Yeah. And then you'll run into some independent work from Scott Snyder, Noctera, things like that, and you read that and I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. So that's what's fun about comic books for me,
And you mentioned before we started Star Wars. Because Star Wars, if I had to, let's put Star Wars in the superhero category, because I mean, the Force is power at the end of the day, but it's not considered the same as superhero universe.
It's more like sci-fi, but I mean, they've got superpowers.
They do. But, what was your first introduction into the Star Wars universe?
So, funny enough, super young. I think it was around the time Phantom Menace came out. Because I think Phantom Menace
was like 99.
Yeah. But I actually watched the original trilogy first.
Which I think it's the way it needs to be done.
I mean,
even if you get into Star Wars now, I 100%. Would advise doing 5, 6, no, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3. Yes. And then if you want to do 7 and 8, you can
skip those if you want to.
They weren't terrible, but they're not the greatest.
It got worse. The closer it gets past 5.
Yeah.
So obviously I enjoy Mark Hamill. I really like him. So when he's in it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Daisy Ridley.
She's
Maybe in the
very
first
compelling,
first one she was in. Then and also I really enjoy Kylo. What's his name?
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver.
Yeah.
I enjoyed him.
Me too.
I enjoy Adam Driver. That even after, because my introduction to Adam was through that first Star Wars
Okay,
of his,
interesting, yeah.
and then I went and watched other movies of his. And I enjoy him as an actor. You know,
Again,
when he's on a
another
podcast,
actor.
I'll listen to him.
100%.
So I enjoy him, but I don't know. I got less interested in Star Wars the more they kept making.
Yeah, I think it's tough because with the the sequel trilogy, because you got the original, prequel, and then sequel trilogy, there's already in terms of fan base for Star Wars, I know Star Wars fan base is a little bit more clingy. Not clingy. Clingy is a terrible
But
way.
protective.
Protective.
Because even the prequels weren't enjoyed by a lot of people.
100%.
Which I loved.
But now, me too. But now you have Hayden Christensen coming back in series of Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, which is really great to see.
Yeah.
I just do feel like with the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, there was a certain level of expectancy. You know what I'm saying?
Unrealistic, maybe. Or
Not necessarily unrealistic, but people love it. People who love Star Wars love Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I understand why, because I'm one of those people, but I'm always down to sit down and kind of take you through it, because I don't want to be as protective over it, because it is a great world to be involved in and get engulfed in. But I do feel like there was a level that was achieved with those. And people expected the sequel to match up to it. So it's not quite gonna match. It didn't quite match up to it. But I think what they're doing with the TV shows, the series rather, with Ahsoka, maybe not Obi-Wan so much, Mandalorian.
But Obi-Wan series was cool.
It was super good. Good.
That's been my favorite. I enjoyed Mandalorian, don't get me wrong, and Boba Fett were awesome. I enjoyed those.
Yeah.
But Obi-Wan, I just love Ewan McGregor, and
He's
Obi-Wan
great,
was my TV dad when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So seeing Ewan come back and be Obi-Wan again was so cool. And also seeing him fight Darth Vader again.
And that fight was so emotional.
Yeah, and it was done really well, and it was
yeah.
good representation of the characters.
100%. And I think that is what the original trilogy did. It built this world. It made you invested in these characters. And so one of my favorite characters of all time is Darth Vader. Reason being is because of that character development, that his story is so sad that you can't help feel compassionate and understand why he did certain things and why.
Essentially, he became evil because of love.
100%, sorry. 100%. And you understand that. And I think that's what they did perfectly well with the show. And it may have not really achieved that level of attachment with the sequel trilogy. But what they're doing is they're building up to that, and they're trying to give some groundwork maybe, but you've already got an attachment with Ewan McGregor, with Obi-Wan's character. So seeing him go through that, seeing him essentially fall from grace, because that throughout that show he is essentially a lone ranger, and you can tell he's struggling with inner conflicts and things like that. And then that final battle and then you see that switch, and then just the cinematography of that fight. It's amazing.
I only watched it once. I think I need to go back and rewatch it.
It's your rewatch.
Because I think at that point when they were releasing it week by week.
Yeah.
And the second it was ready, I was watching the next episode. And I haven't gone back and rewatched it, but I definitely think I need to.
No,
even if I just watch that fight scene again on YouTube or something.
100%. I think also because because it's set in between the prequel and original trilogy. So I know there was a lot of, maybe not a lot, but people were okay, how does this actually fit in universe? You know what I'm saying? Does it really make sense?
Yeah,
because
some people might not gauge really when
100%, because you have Leia in the original trilogy saying, help me Obi-Wan, you helped my father in the Clone Wars. Don't really mention that you kind of saved me as a child. But then again, she was a little girl. Can kind of forgive that.
Yeah. She would, because
yeah, I mean, you kind of were taken.
Yeah, it's true.
So I mean, you can kind of forgive.
Yeah,
that.
she was definitely old enough to be remembered being abducted.
Exactly. Little
Yeah.
girl is super sassy. I love that
Yeah.
actress. But yeah, I think you can kind of forgive that because the whole purpose is to kind of bring back Ewan McGregor and just revisit that character, because that character is great. Like Anakin, and he got failed. You know what I'm saying? He failed Anakin, but he was also failed by the Jedi Council and things
Yeah.
like that. And I think, you see, you're getting into things why I love Star Wars so much.
Yeah. And it's also because of, you know, things like The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, we get to explore so much of like our enjoyment of the characters.
100%.
Because like Boba Fett, he wasn't a big part really of Star Wars in the cinema universe.
100%.
Like obviously cartoon versions, he might have been explored a bit more, but for us to be able to see that character, because I remember watching, it was the first one, I think, where he was with Jabba at like the races. It was
It was
Samuel Jackson cuts
there was Django, his dad.
Django, yes.
So Boba Fett was introduced. So funny enough,
at
with
Kamino or whatever on the planet there with the clones where
Oh,
Obi-Wan,
yes,
I think
but
that's his initial.
as a kid, yes.
Yeah.
But in terms of, so that's chronologically his introduction. But in terms of like movie release, he was actually introduced in as like an adult in Jabba the Hutt's. I think bring in Han Solo, that kind of interaction. Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah,
the sand animal thing.
Yes. So it's funny because I think Boba Fett in the original trilogy, I think he doesn't have that much screen time. I think over the course of the 3 movies, it's maybe like 20 minutes or something like that. So seeing a character that doesn't have much screen time get so much love, I mean, it just goes to show, you know what I'm saying?
And also, I think the fact that he's Australian, like I just enjoy that Australian accent so much.
Yeah, I think the Maori type.
Yeah. Samoan, whatever it is. Because I mean, he's Aquaman's dad.
100%.
They're the same actor at least.
He's such a lovable dude as well.
Yes.
Hey? So, no, I think he really does bring a certain energy to the character, and that's what's needed too. You know.
Yeah, and it's nice if they do it right, and it's not just for money.
100%.
Because like yes, they want to make money off Obi-Wan, but they didn't sacrifice the character
100%.
or what they've built previously, or
100%.
at least what maybe Lucas had built.
Yeah.
And then when Disney purchased it,
Yeah.
Disney fired a little bit too much, but fortunately they hadn't. So now you're obviously wearing a Zorro shirt.
Yes, sir.
We were speaking a little bit about One Piece, but the Netflix live adaptation, because the people watching this most likely
We'll
would have been exposed to, maybe they've heard of One Piece because it's super, obviously like the most popular anime.
Yeah.
But the live action on Netflix, how was that for you?
So, like I said to you, I in varsity I watched a lot of anime and then fell off a bit. So
Okay, so then let's go to varsity. What animes?
So
Then.
Death Note.
Okay.
Death Note. I love Death Note. Parasite. I started Hunter x Hunter.
And the 2011.
Yes. I fell off around like the Ant Saga. I was like, okay, this is getting weird. And then I can't remember what else. Tokyo Ghoul. Love Tokyo Ghoul. But I know this contra, like, sprung away from the manga and stuff. I'm like, I don't read the manga, so I love the seasons. And then fell off a bit. Excuse me. But then during that time, I had friends that would watch. I had a friend who was like super dedicated to watch One Piece. And he was like, oh, you got to watch this. I was like, but dude, it's like 600 episodes. I'm not watching 600. I can watch like 2 seasons of like 20 episodes. That's fine. It's 40 episodes. It's okay. I'm not watching 600 episodes. I'm not. And then last year, the live action came out. I was like, okay, let me check it out. Let me watch it. And that actually, so I had to watch the live action without watching the anime. I genuinely enjoyed it. I didn't think it was too bad. I know there was like worries because obviously Luffy does have like rubber powers. How's that going to translate on screen?
And also, he's such a lovable person
100%.
in the anime.
100%.
a character has to, an actor has to play that really well
100%,
to get
yeah.
right, which I think he did.
I believe so too. Even with like the latest Airbender series, I know it's like people on the fence,
Especially
about it.
based off that Shyamalan version in 2010. That movie was terrible. Terrible.
I hate that movie.
Yeah, no, it's bad.
It's so terrible. But I think the live actions have done really, really well. Especially, so the live action of One Piece actually made me go and catch up. So I'm up to date. I'm watching new episodes of One Piece with everybody else that's been watching for years, which I kind of take as an achievement a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. The only gripe I have with the new Avatar remake is just Azula. Did you watch the cartoon?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely love it, yeah.
Yeah, that cartoon is
it's so
incredible.
good. It's childhood.
Yeah, amazing. So Azula, she is crazy and like an alpha female in the series, in the cartoon.
Yeah.
In this one, I just didn't like.
You didn't feel it as much.
Obviously, it's only been one season.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It wasn't like that was the only thing I was like Sokka. How much does he look like the guy?
he sounds like him.
Yes.
I just like, yeah, man. I do feel like the casting they've done perfectly on that show.
Yeah.
It's
even Aang does well.
Yeah, well, Gordon Cormier or something. Great kid. Like he stuck it as Avatar.
And
Uncle Iroh.
Iroh. Have you ever watched? It's on Netflix. Kim's Convenience.
Appa.
Yeah,
love Appa.
Bro, I loved
Appa.
that show. Is actually was rewatching some episodes the other day because I've rewatched that series twice, and because I love that guy.
Me too.
And when I saw he was cast as Iroh, I was just like,
it's the perfect casting.
Yeah,
it's so funny because he's also a super Star Wars fan. He's been in
he's
a couple.
in Solo, I think, or
the Mandalorian, and he was in a couple of episodes of Ahsoka. Ahsoka, sorry, not Ahsoka. See, I'm thinking about Avatar.
Was he? What character did he play? Oh,
he was just like a
guy
pilot.
in the. Oh, he was a pilot.
Yeah,
You're right. Yes.
So he actually has like his own like little live stream where he talks about Star Wars and things.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. He's a big Star Wars fan, but like overall, again, just a lovable guy, and I think character-wise, super fitting for him. But I get what you're saying about Azula though, because in the show she was very. She wasn't as calculated. Like I feel like in the live action, she's very calculated and she's very after her dad's approval and like trying to show up her brother. Whereas in the animated series, she was just like, I don't care. I'm doing what I do.
She's just like doing everything really strategic to get
100%.
his approval, or at least to downgrade Zuko.
100%. And then in the animated series, she was just like, I'm just going. If you're in my way, you're getting stood on. And I think, but even Zuko a little bit. I saw a clip that said the one gripe somebody had with is so the whole reason why. So if you've never watched the animated, I'm sorry, but first 2 seasons, obviously he's hunting Aang, and he's after his father's approval, and he's trying to get that approval, and then trying to hunt down the Avatar. So he becomes a super. Like, I won't say hated, but like you just don't like him. You know, there's an unlikable character. Every time he's on screen, he's like, oh, let's do it again.
Which is good writing.
It is good writing, because when you do get that character switch and then he does become part of Team Avatar and he's like, you know what, my dad is wrong. And it shows his growth as a character, as a man and all that. I feel like, okay, it's not a bad thing that you can kind of catch hints of that already in the live action. Because, I mean, you only have a certain number, you have a limited time to tell a story. So that immediate switch might be very jarring. So I can understand why they implanted some of those redemptions and some of those early on in the first season, so that when that switch does happen, it's not like, oh, where did this come from? Yeah. So I don't necessarily see that as a flaw, but like,
I think it's also because like they took even like certain, like with Jet, they took him. He was only, I think, in season 2 in the cartoon.
100%, yeah.
Whereas he's been in now already. So I think it's they've picked and choose certain things because of time, and they can't explore I mean, the
they were
cartoon, I think, is like
also-
20 episodes in a season, so it's
and
easier
you
for
have
them
to tell 20 episodes in 8 episodes.
Yeah.
But I also feel like they've also done a really good job in telling that initial, when the episode kicks off, they show you what actually happened with the Airbender temple, and which you don't really get in the animated series. So, I mean, I feel like they've used their time wisely.
Yeah.
So it's not a...
And also, I think it's a very, very, very difficult thing to make something that was cartoon
100%.
into live action
100%,
without spending all the money in the world, because you got real people who now need to be able to do backflips and do all these crazy things.
100%.
I mean, a cartoon, it's very easy to animate a cartoon character to do whatever you want them to do. So like with Aang, with One Piece, I completely understand if there's certain things that aren't perfect because it's not a cartoon.
You can forgive it, yeah.
It's way more difficult to, obviously now with CGI, it's a bit easier, but it's still very difficult to have your character and that guy, he does it really well and becomes Luffy, but to make him exactly the same, but he does it really well.
I mean, it's his own take on Luffy. You know what I'm saying? There are similarities, but you can tell that, like, you know, this is cool, you know, and he made it his own, which I feel like is also quite important when you do these adaptations. You have the animated series or the anime that we genuinely love. Everybody grew up with these, so I think that expectation, be rid of it, because then when you go into, obviously the actor, unfortunately you can never win, because if the actor goes according to the anime or animation, you're like, oh, I might as well just watch the anime or animation. You know what I'm saying? Whereas now if they make it their own, then people's going to nitpick and like, oh, but they did this, oh, but they did this. But I'm like,
You're not going to please everyone.
You're not going to please everyone. So
as long as there's one thing I want in Avatar, is when Iroh is in prison and they think he's like let himself go.
Okay.
And he's doing all those pull-ups and those push-ups.
Oh, yes.
And then he takes his shirt off.
And
he had like a pillow on his stomach, and he took and he's shredded and he's jacked. Obviously, it's going to be very tough for that actor.
Upper. You got to do some crunches, man.
It's going to be tough for him to ever look that good.
Yes.
He doesn't have the build and he doesn't have enough time.
I mean, they could always maybe not go like super aesthetic physique, but more like powerlifting physique. You know what I'm saying? So he might have presence. You know what I'm saying? So
he just can't have man boobs, like powerlifting man boobs.
Yeah.
But also then rather just CGI his body or something.
Slap someone on there. It's cool. Get
it's
a
like
body double.
A free guy when Ryan Reynolds, when they won, other body and Ryan Reynolds' face.
Yeah, there's ways around it. We will find a way.
Yeah.
We'll find a way.
Did you ever read Percy Jackson?
The books, no.
Okay. Did you watch the series on Netflix?
I did.
What is your feeling? Because I grew up reading the books.
Okay. So without reading the books, I enjoyed the series.
You obviously maybe had seen the movies that they did.
100%, yeah. So, I mean, I enjoyed the movies and like...
It wasn't amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't amazing, but it was decent, you know. It passed the time by. It was cool, you know. I actually enjoyed the series. I didn't watch it week to week. I just did like a binge, and then... I don't know in terms of, so I can't say yes I week to week and a binge, so which is preferred. I just binged it, and I think watching it all in one, it was an enjoyable experience. I didn't have any gripes or any flaws.
Yeah, I didn't even finish the series.
Is it?
I really loved the books. I read all of the books. Then they brought out like Magnus Chase, which was, I think it was the Egyptian god. So like sick. I did like all the different ones where they did obviously the Greek. Then he brought out a different run where it was Egyptian, and then Norse as well, which was quite cool. So it was like all three. And then I enjoyed the movies when they brought those out. Then the series, I enjoyed the first like 6 episodes. Then I don't know, I just fell off. I think also maybe at that same point there was something else that I was enjoying more.
I think so, yeah.
And also I wasn't enjoying it that much, and I'm like, I enjoyed the books. Maybe I just leave the series. Like it's not the end of the world if I just leave it.
Everyone has their medium that they prefer. You know, sometimes things work better as a comic book or as a book than a series. Sometimes things work better as a movie or series. Sometimes things work better as an animated series or anime. You know? So it all depends on how you're feeling that day and what you prefer.
What's the best comic book or the real life adaptation of a comic book or superhero type thing that you think has been done the most accurately? Maybe not that you've enjoyed the most, but
but most accurately. That is a tough one because it's never. That is a bit of a tough one. I would say the best adaptation is the Dark Knight animations, part 1, part 2. Yeah. Because that's directly taken from
Frank Miller's
story. And because like the movies will always reference or bring in a certain aspect of an arc or something.
As you mentioned earlier, like if they did a take for take, people are just going to be like, well, this
100%,
is the same.
I might as well just, But I mean, it's not always a bad thing because you do, like, if people will more likely watch a movie or watch a series as opposed to read a comic book. If that can, I'm always trying to find that bridge and bring people in to read comic books or, books. If I can find that gap, do it, you know what I'm saying? But I think Dark Knight would be the most, maybe not frame for frame, but the most proper adaptation,
And then one that you've enjoyed the most that even if it didn't represent the character exactly how it is in the comics or, stuck exactly true to their nature.
I'm going to have to say, actually, the Miss Marvel series, thoroughly enjoyed that series. Also because at the time, I think Marvel didn't own the rights to X-Men. So
still Fox then, I think.
Still Fox, So they couldn't make Miss Marvel a mutant. So now with the latest series, they're kind of bringing that in. And the actress that plays Miss Marvel is fantastic in it. And she herself is a big fan. So, she's always pushing story as opposed to monetization of it. So, which I'll always root for. So I feel like that is one I've enjoyed. That it encapsulates what the character is and what the character means. And then just overall, like it translates both comic book and series. That the emotion is the same on both.
That's what I like. Also, like with some Star Wars stuff, is they'll continue what happened in the movies
100%.
and put it in the comics.
100%.
Like, that's really nice, where you can go from one straight to the other,
100%.
different mediums.
100%.
Even like Clone Wars, like watching the animated Clone Wars, tying in with Ahsoka and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's so funny you mention that because I'm currently reading the Star Wars Darth Vader. So it takes place in between It's a New Hope and Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
Because at the end of A New Hope, obviously they destroy the Death Star. And then Darth Vader finds out that, it's a person named Skywalker. It's like, I haven't heard that name in years. And then it's you see the distrust Darth Vader has for the Emperor in the comic book series. And it's just a great series, man. It's a great, and it takes place before Episode 5, which is A New Hope.
And that's also a nice relationship to see because you basically always just saw Anakin, not really sucking up, but always like whatever the council would say, he would be there telling the Emperor. So it's also cool to see him have the distrust.
100%. It's same with like Clone Wars, like from Phantom Menace and then Attack of the Clones, and then all of a sudden Revenge of the Sith. He's super mad at everyone and he's super like, dude, why? You know what I'm saying? And then all that story is in the Clone Wars animated series.
And also getting to see Darth Maul a little bit more is cool.
Exactly.
Because he was also a character that you see. And then obviously he kills Liam Neeson. Yeah. And, Qui-Gon goes down. And Qui-Gon is also like an incredibly cool character that I thoroughly enjoyed. So it's cool to see obviously a little bit more of Darth Maul.
100%. And it's so again, you mentioned Qui-Gon and how not necessarily distrusting, but how rebellious he was to the council. Because especially with like the Acolyte that's coming out at some point.
I saw that trailer. It looks very cool.
Yeah, it does look very cool. But there we're diving into like the High Republic. So that was before Jedi essentially became the Republic's like service keepers. Because the argument is that Jedi are meant to be like monks. They're supposed to use the Force for balance. And obviously that's how they were manipulated to tip the scales and created the chaos. So Qui-Gon stuck to the monk-esqueness
Yes.
of, and he rebelled against the council because that's not what the council is for.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was rebelling against the politics of it.
100%. It's like we're not politicians. We're not the police. Leave the politics to the politicians. We're here for balance of the force and of the whole entire universe. And that loss, I don't know if it's like not appreciated, but like recognized as much as because that loss is essentially played a big part in why Anakin's downfall. You know what I'm saying? Because if Anakin was under Qui-Gon's guidance, he would not have strayed so far. You know what I'm saying? But again, storytelling. And then we wouldn't have the universe that we have now, you see. So, but it's interesting to think about what if and like, you know, how all these moving parts build a bigger picture.
So now, obviously, what are you looking forward to that might be even... I mean, I see Batman 2 is only going to be started filming next year or something. Well, what are you looking forward to that's been built now? Or even like James Gunn announcing the Superman, or like, what are you looking forward to?
So the Penguin series that
on
I
HBO,
thoroughly
it's gonna
love,
be
Colin
cool.
Farrell's
Yeah,
Penguin.
yeah.
Interesting. Super cool.
Like that chase scene.
It's so good, right?
That chase scene is so good.
I think I'm going to go watch Batman now when I get home.
Yeah,
'cause
Matt Reeves. I really enjoyed Matt Reeves' storytelling, obviously with like Planet of the Apes and those movies. So Matt Reeves is really good. I'm trying to think what else Matt Reeves has done. Done Planet of the Apes. He's done a few of those like darky noir type things, which that's also something about Patterson's Batman. It was like the detective Batman talking to himself, like that voiceover. I
trying to
thoroughly
figure
enjoyed
out,
that.
which is more, you get more of that like in the games type thing where you gotta like line up, okay, this is where the bullet came through, and sometimes you do forget that Batman essentially is a detective, and like it's pretty cool that they played the part in that. Yeah, so the Penguin series, super excited for. The Acolyte as well. Acolyte's gonna be fun. Dude, I'm
What about like Deadpool, Wolverine?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not the biggest Deadpool fan.
Okay.
That's one character I cannot stand.
What about it? Is it like the Hollywoodization with like Ryan Reynolds and stuff?
Not even that. Like I feel like Ryan Reynolds' characterization. I mean, Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool, essentially. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind. I love the movies. Deadpool for me is like one of those things. Like this dude is trying too hard. Like I was reading X-Force and they introduced him in X-Force. I'm just like, oh, can we just get past this? Like, there's one character, but I am excited to see Hugh Jackman come back as Wolverine.
Yeah, he's the GOAT.
Yeah,
Wolverine.
he really is. He's the people's Wolverine. I'm excited.
I mean, he's definitely played a comic book character the most. Like, surely he's been, like, obviously he's only been Wolverine, but he's been on screen like 20 times as Wolverine.
Fair,
Like, even like Iron Man, like Robert Downey Jr., I don't think he's been on screen.
Funny enough.
Maybe he has. Because he's also an OG in terms of comic book characters. But
because it's been like not only in Iron Man, but like Avengers. Maybe it's on par because him and Robert Downey is like kind of on par with like they characterize, I think, to the point
if you look at Christian Bale, he was able to play a different person,
100%,
in a different universe.
100%.
Whereas, like, if Robert Downey Jr. had to do that, I don't think it would work. If Hugh Jackman had to now go and play, I don't know, something else in like the DC universe, I don't think it would work.
Yeah, true. I think also, correct me, like people must correct me if I'm wrong, but like Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Iron Man is so good that the comic books even sometimes skew towards that, you know, that eccentric and like even these lookalikes in the comic books.
The goatee,
everything.
Yeah.
Even though it's like
his eyes, like you can see, okay, that's Robert Downey Jr. in the comic book. That's not Iron Man.
His haircut and stuff. Yeah. So I think even though Hugh Jackman is very important as Wolverine, Robert Downey has essentially changed that character.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, like they are like, if I had to see Tom Hardy as Wolverine, I'd be okay with that.
Me too.
I had to see anyone really, but to see another man playing Iron Man, it'll
be a bit difficult. Yeah,
like with Pepper Potts maybe coming back as a female Iron Man, that's cool. Do that.
That's fine.
But if it's like another man and they reboot Iron Man, I don't know if I'd be happy with that.
I think that's also why in Multiverse of Madness they didn't really bring an Iron Man in because if you have anyone else, people will rebel. Like,
And
no,
it's also kind of a character that was done so well, guys. We perfected this.
100%.
Put it to the side.
100%.
There's time for a new character, someone else to be developed.
Let's introduce someone else, because like if you look at the books, there's tons of characters that could use like some more spotlight, you know. So yeah. I mean, I can't think on top of my head what other projects are coming out this year.
Games, even? Do you like games?
Games, I'm okay with games. I'm not a huge gamer.
Like Star Wars games?
Star Wars games I enjoyed. I still jam on a PS4, so I'm not even like, I have no need to, also because all my money is going to the collection and stuff. So,
and ornament-wise, also a lot of statues.
Statues, yeah, I haven't gotten statues for a while, but
because that's also just crazy expensive.
It's crazy expensive, but it's so funny because when I was looking at when you go to the comic book store and you see these things, it's like, I mean, because I collect 1/10 scale, it's not very big statues, but again, you're looking at maybe everything is from like 3,000 up. You know, who's going in there and just slapping down 4,000, 5,000 on a statue?
Yeah,
but
because also if you have one, you're like, oh no, I need a whole shelf.
100%.
So then, okay, this whole shelf's worth like 100,000 rand. Then you're like,
damn,
am I not wasting my money a little bit?
I had the biggest mistake at work the other day. We were kind of like talking about stuff, and they're like, actually, how much? If you tally up your stuff, I'm like, let's not do that.
Yeah,
let's let's not do that. I'm not trying to go home and cry.
You married?
I am. Yes.
Then
yes,
we
yes,
definitely
yes.
don't want to tally up how much
we
you
don't.
spent.
We don't. I remember the one day I came home with a new statue because I was like, am I able to put this through the window? Because she was on a call, like in the kitchen. I was like, oh my God. Then the window opened and the dogs were like excited. I was like, okay. Now I got to walk through the door with the statue. But she's very understanding with she knows it's my space. And
there's worse things you could be spending money on.
I could be a drug addict.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
that's like, so I mean, essentially it is but like I was saying, statues are quite expensive, but from initial, like comic books, from that first perspective, it can be very jarring. But when you're in it and you see that there are payment plans, there are pre-orders, and so you might see a statue that's only coming out maybe next year, June. So if you pay off in like 6 months, you've paid off. By the time June comes around, you've paid it off, and they can give you a call and say, listen, your statue's arrived. And you're like, oh, I forgot about that thing. And now you got a statue. So there is a ways around it. So yeah.
Bro, thank you so much. I don't really get to speak comic books, and
thank you for having me
as much as I really want to.
No,
I had a mate who I was at varsity with, and we would always talk about this stuff. But yeah, it was nice to chat to you and just geek out a little bit.
Yeah, man. I'm always game to, like I say, I'm very active on IG. I think I chat more on Instagram than actual WhatsApp, you know what I'm saying? Because people's always like, oh, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm always
So obviously I'll put your Instagram in the description below, but do you want to maybe read, what is it? Exactly?
It's just _ Chad Beyers, nothing crazy.
But your TikTok name was different.
It's Omega Level Chad.
Level Chad, nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm like I say, IG, that's where I am.
So _ Chad Beyers, bro. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Of course.
Cool, man.
And thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.